What's up, game players? What's happening, listeners? Listen, before we get into the podcast, into this week's very, very special guest, I just wanted to say thank you guys for the support. I really appreciate you guys listening every week, week in, week out. And I know I missed the podcast this week, but one is definitely coming up this week, and I'm actually working on it. But I just wanted to apologize for that. But I'm back, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this interview. And with that being said, as always, you can reach the show at 443-261-4607 or email the show at the analogcirclepodcast@gmail.com. And you can go on to Facebook and actually become a member of the Analog Circle Facebook group. Just look it up and you can find it. But with that being said, guys, let's get into this week's interview. You guys take care. Bye-bye. What's up, game players? How are you guys doing? I would like to welcome you guys to the Analog Circle Podcast Roundtable Discussion. And I have to tell you guys, I have a very, very, very special guest here in the building with me today. He is actually a professor. And you might be saying, a professor of what? Well, y'all know what the podcast is about. He is a professor in gaming. And we're going to get into that, and we're going to try to pick his brain a little bit about that. But guys, listeners, I want to welcome to the show, Mr. Martin Murphy. What's going on, brother?
Hey, hey man. It's good to hear you, Keon. Thanks for inviting me to the show. It's an honor. Great to be here.
Oh, man, it is fantastic to have you here, Martin. Thank you so very much. I greatly appreciate this opportunity, sir.
Right on.
Absolutely. All right. So the first thing, Martin, you know what? If you don't mind, though, would you like to give the listeners just a little bit of your gaming background? You know, just to get people, a little acclimated about what era of gaming you come from.
Yeah. So, Keon, you're going to be surprised after listening to your podcast with Goose. I had my first interview in games with a young kid in 1985 on the Apple II games at a company called Mindscape. And I came in with an Apple II portfolio of like printouts, color printouts, and it's a drawing portfolio. And when I went to that interview, I was really young. I just came in just to kind of find out more about gaming in those early stages. And I was really into it. Arcades were big. Home systems were just coming home. I remember playing the first Pong at the home. And I got hooked up with a brother-in-law who hooked me up with an Apple II. Little Apple II, but, kept me from going over to my friend's house who had an Apple II. So, but, I got started, working full time in games at like 92. I've worked at Sega, during the 16-bit days. I worked for Activision, and I spent most of my time at Midway Games in Chicago, dating back to the arcade days, up until the very end.
Okay, all right. So you actually, Martin, actually worked for Sega did you say the 16-bit era?
Yeah.
The Genesis era? Holy cow.
Yeah. We have, of all things, as a professor, I had to give a lecture this year in our game art history class about the CD-ROM, and I went and talked to those kids about my experience. I made a couple Sega CD games with them. Jurassic Park is the big one. And, a lot of the limitations of that.
Wow.
But, I got there towards the end of the Sega thing.
Okay.
And, but they were really interested in something I had studied at school, which was high-end 3D computer animation. So like after Jurassic Park, everybody was getting more and more into high-end 3D animation. So that was my specialty.
Goodness. So you actually have this is a lengthy history in the
Oh yeah.
gaming industry that you have.
Yeah. And I worked on films and theme parks and a whole bunch of commercial broadcasts. So I'm an old guy.
Golly, this is, I mean, it's amazing, listeners. I actually did not know about the Sega part. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
What? Wow, 16-bit era. That was actually one of my favorite eras, actually, for Sega, because I remember when the Dreamcast came out, and
Yeah.
oh man,
Did you pirate some games, Keon?
no,
Because there's some students I've had in the past who've like, you ruined the Dreamcast with your.
no, I actually did not pirate any games. However, though, here in
Yeah.
Baltimore at a specific flea market, I'm not going to put them
Right.
on blast.
Right. It's
They
always at a
definitely
flea
had
market.
they definitely had some, but I always have been a person who's always believed in really supporting the gaming industry as a whole, because I love it. You know, it's something that
Oh, yeah.
I hold really close and dear, and I know that that's money that those publishers and the developers are not going to get, so I would never get a burnt copy. But they were readily available, though. They really were.
Right.
But so I guess from there, Martin, I guess the next question would be, what got you into actually teaching gaming as a professor? And could you tell the listeners what school you actually are a professor at, sir?
Okay. So I was working at Midway Chicago, and an old colleague of mine invited me to come teach a portfolio class, like a finishing class, getting students ready for employment and going out into their industry at Columbia College in Chicago. And I taught there part-time for a number of years. They liked me because I was an art director, studio art director level guy who was very familiar with what we needed to get students to be moving over to actual production needs. Mm-hmm. And from there, when Midway went bankrupt in 2009,
it hurt me.
It hurt me most. But I got an offer to teach full time at Ringling College of Art and Design in Sarasota, Florida, and it's actually where I went to school back in that early 1985 interview I had with a guy from Mindscape. He had graduated from Ringling in 1962, an illustration major, so he had worked on a bunch of games. And he said, "You guys, you should go to this Ringling College." And they were just at the time when I went there. This is the late 80s. It was the only college in the United States that offered a Bachelor of Fine Arts, that like doing artwork in computer graphics. So I jumped at that. I'm lucky to have gone. And it was years later that school really took off in that area. And I stayed in contact. And when, things got rough and people were offering me a lot less money, I made a career change for sure. I went full time to teach, and it's been great. Not only been teaching at Ringling College of Art and Design, we do a really great program. We're definitely one of the largest visual arts programs out there. We're accredited by national schooling accreditation systems out there, and it just makes us a really potent program. And I've been teaching there since '09.
Wow, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing, Martin. I love it, man, to actually have been able to go back to the same school. So that actually, to me, says that you guys are actually loyal to the students that go through.
You're right. That's they can definitely. I would hope they would sense us. Like, we want you folks to be really good. And for me, it's just kind of hard to say, like, what other school would I have graduated from if there was nothing, right? So
absolutely, definitely. Well, I guess the next thing I would want to ask you, Martin, and this is your personal opinion about this matter, is there any particular skill set that a new student may have to possess, in order to get into the gaming field? Because, me, myself, when I wanted to do it, they told me it was pretty art heavy, and you had to be a good drawer. You had to be a good artist. So that kind of made me take a back seat. Like, well, I'm not that great of an artist, but to you personally, is there a particular set that a high school student that's coming out of school should possess in order to get into this field?
Right. So drawing's great. But there's other ways to visually communicate, right? And I look at a whole bunch of entering portfolios. I'm at a whole bunch of portfolio days looking at oncoming students' work. But as long as that prospective students are, making and designing, it could be a logo, it could be some graphic design work. Mm-hmm. If they like drawing, the things that maybe you didn't get in your training was like, I like to see perspective drawing. And for like students who don't like drawing characters or, cool elves and armor or stuff, if they're into drawing, with a more systematic view, like drawing cars or drawing architecture, mm-hmm. that's just perspective drawing, and that can really help. But I'm also kind of interested in, since we teach so much game design, we have a programming class as well. I'd like to see a student who's maybe played around with like some front end tools on a web design. So maybe he's learned some CSS, maybe learned a little, JavaScript. Mm-hmm. The JavaScript, just a little baseline of programming for us, knowing what arrays are, like Goose was talking about arrays and variables. Mm-hmm. Having some of that kind of basic, programming knowledge is just going to allow you to create artwork that uses computer thinking better. And you could definitely see that in our students' work. I got a student that I can share with you right now, but Trent has got this cool project. I shared a link with you beforehand, and he's definitely a drawer, but he definitely has a programming mind. So those are kind of the skills we would look for. We look for like a mix. And, I don't work in admissions, and they kind of look at the total student when they're, looking at these prospective students. So the portfolio's a part of it, being able to draw. Mm-hmm. But if any of your listeners are interested at Ringling and want to find out more about what it takes, they can contact me. No problem. M. Murphy at Ringling. It's at c.ringling.edu. There's 2 M's at the beginning, and they can reach out to me.
I appreciate you actually giving that as an option to the listeners. Thank you so much for that, Martin. Thank you. Really appreciate that for sure. But I guess from there, you actually pretty much transitioned into the next question that I was going to ask you, which is something that I know everybody who's interested in, the gaming industry or building their own game, they want to know what can they expect on actually building a game. So my next question to you was going to be, what are some of the projects that you have your students work on while they're there at the university?
Right. So in our coursework, the students will create about 5 different games in addition to learning how to use the Unreal 4 engine.
Unreal Engine? Oh my goodness. So y'all actually teach on that?
We were teaching on the beta. But we've been using, if you may not know, Midway was a Unreal.
Yeah.
Was switching over to Unreal at the end.
Absolutely. I remember Stranglehold, one of their last games. Yeah. That game was
I worked
incredible.
on Stranglehold.
You worked on Stranglehold? Let me applaud you right now. That game was
Brian Eddy's
incredible.
the creative director. Chip Zanini, Jason Kaler, all the guys there did a really great job on that project.
Oh my goodness, that game was incredible. The bullet time in that game was sensational. Sensational.
And I was working as a producer on the sequel.
You had a sequel in the works?
We had a game called kind of like a spiritual sequel called Gunrunner that was going to come out.
Oh my gosh!
We had all the team lined up. We had a cooperative. We had it all prototyped. We were ready to roll, and just the way things are.
Goodness, it was that game, and I'm not gonna go too far left. But it was that game and The Wheelman. Didn't you guys make The Wheelman with Vin Diesel?
Right.
I believe that was another incredible game that had. I mean, it was absolutely. The premise of that game was something I had never seen before, where y'all had the mechanic called airjacking, where you actually would jump from one vehicle to the other.
Okay.
That game was absolutely awesome.
A unique selling proposition. Airjacking.
Yeah. But, I mean, I really was hoping you guys were able to stay around. I was such a big fan, and I was very sorry to see you guys go. But those last two projects, y'all, to me personally, y'all went out on a very high note with those two games. I mean, two amazing games. But,
and Mortal Kombat and DC, those guys were just kicking butt.
Absolutely. But I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you, Martin. Please
continue. So we've been using Unreal, and the students get a real workout in that. And in addition to going through the game design classes, we have a lot of focus coursework on creating models, whether it's the environments or the props or the characters or the vehicles that go into the games. And I got to tell you, it's definitely one of the really rigorous programs for 3D modeling. Mm-hmm. And we put a lot of time and attention on surfacing of the details, the textures, and material definitions. Mm-hmm. And we love the Unreal Engine because it allows us to have so much control over that visual product. And in addition to that, our kids do some visual development classes. They're younger than me, so I'm allowed.
Right.
I have. It's been a while since I had a student older than me, but here, I sent you a link to a project by Trent Civic.
Yes, yes, sir.
He just did this great project called Phonetica. I would ask all your listeners to take a look at it.
Absolutely.
It's really awesome.
I'll put it in the description for sure.
That'd be great. And we just found out that Trent's going to be one of the top 5 finalists for the E3 Game College competition.
Oh, man!
Yeah. So he's going up against all the other colleges that are teaching game art and design, the top 5 from them. And this is a passion project for Trent. He was a solo person, but he's just one great example of all the different types of projects our students create. This project Trent made is his senior thesis project, and he works on it for about 1.5 years, doing pre-production, and then he does a whole year of working on the assets, the programming, and creating that final trailer that kind of really encapsulates the idea, since everybody loves the YouTubes. But you can check out a playthrough and his trailer up online.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now for the listeners out there, once again, where could they find the playthrough on YouTube if they're very interested in getting to know more about his game?
Sure. If you want to check it out, it's on YouTube for sure. His name is Trent Civic.
Okay.
And I'm playing one in the background here. Hold up.
Oh, no problem.
Can you hear that?
No, I couldn't hear it.
Okay.
No, you're good.
So you should just be able to check out Trent Civic, TRENTSIVEK. It just came out, but you can find a whole bunch of our other previous projects from Ringling on our Vimeo account, and I'll share a link with you on our other student work too. Okay?
That sounds great to me. That'll be absolutely great.
Yeah, we got a really incredible program. I mean, this past year we got 26 seniors. Over half of them already have jobs. They're going out to companies like Respawn.
Oh my.
We got students who are interning at Riot, at Insomniac, working for high-res studios. So we have just a tremendous program, and our kids are really sought after. So
that is awesome. I just got two more questions for you. Just two more.
Okay.
And I'm going to let you go, Martin. The next question I did want to ask you, actually, you once again pretty much segued into it. Do you guys actually have any, which the ones that you named are pretty big, but do you have any of the actual third-party studios ever like visit the campus to look at any of the students' work? And if that is the case, could you, if it's possible, name a few of them that actually come to the campus?
Right. So this past year, we had a lighting director from DICE come out and visit with our students. It was absolutely amazing.
That's incredible.
We just had an artist from Magic Leap. They're an augmented reality company.
Oh my gosh!
So, mixed reality. But
right.
The thing that folks may not, instantly know about this small college in Sarasota, Florida, is that Ringling College has been so early in its adoption of computer graphics. The network of Ringling alumni just goes on and on for forever. You can't probably find a studio in the U.S. or elsewhere that doesn't have a Ringling grad. So we routinely bring in, for the big senior thesis critiques, we'll bring in at least one, or if not two, people from industry to provide our students feedback and to give kind of like informal portfolio reviews. But this past year, we had 80 recruiters come to college, and across, there's so many interesting jobs the students are getting. A lot of them are VR. Some of them not even in games. We have students who get jobs in architectural visualization, medical visualization, and we had a student get a job at GM making cars. So.
Oh, wow. My goodness. That is sensational, actually. Wow. I guess the last question I have for you, Martin, and I mean, I would love to pick your brain, but I have to be cognizant of your time. This is incredible. But the last question I wanted to ask you is, we know that the field is starting to, the gaming field that is, well, I'm blabbering, is starting to really push VR. That's starting to be the main focus. Well, not the main focus, but a thing that's looming over the industry. My question to you is, are you guys looking into the technology to actually teach your students,
I have 9 Oculus in my office.
9 Oculus Rifts in the office.
We have a HoloLens. I got early DK2, so our department had got into it. We had our first class in VR last summer. It was an experimental class, but for the last 3 years we've been getting into VR. We've had students graduate and go to work at Google, working on their I'm dropping the name right now, but they're working on their Daydream system there. We've had students before that work at Intel on their perceptual computing, doing augmented reality, mixed reality. We've had students go to work at a variety of AR companies out there. So we definitely see it as a hot trend. We're blessed here locally. We got a really great partner company that's 2 of them that picked up some of our students while interns or in graduates. There's this Hoyt architecture place in town in Sarasota that's picked up a bunch, and they're really interested in VR. And we had another one is called ShareCare, and that was a company that's run by Dr. Oz. But they do VR. I know. It's crazy. So they do VR here in medical visualization. So we got a lot of attention locally on it, and I'd love to come back in a little bit, maybe later on, and I'll be able to talk more about what we're doing in VR at a more official capacity. But we are exposing our students to the technology. One of my juniors just got a internship at Facebook's social VR program. So we're into it. It's still in its infancy. I worked with Mitch McCaffrey, and the book published this year called the VR Cookbook, using Unreal. And I was a technical reviewer on that, and I would recommend your audience, if they like VR, to check that out.
That is amazing, Martin. Martin, I know you have to get ready to go. I would love to hold you a little longer, but that pretty much will sum it up for this interview, but thank you so much. I
Thank you.
greatly appreciate it. And once again, please, if there's any last things you would like for the listeners to know about you or the school or how to contact you, please tell them now.
Hey, Keon, anybody who's interested in Ringling College of Art and Design, check us out on www.ringling.edu and look out for more announcements about our E3 finalists, Trent Civic, and all of our faculty are trained professionals, worked on really great, amazing games, Forza, Shadows of Mordor, just all sorts of really great industry of experience. And the college really prides itself on its faculty not only being really great educators, but also, people who are actively practicing in games. And I'm working on a game right now, an independent game for a friend of mine. His name is Richard Rouse III, and the game is called Church in the Darkness. So if you're interested in cool, top-down, kind of cult-like games, check it out, right?
Absolutely. If you guys don't know, Mr. Drouse, this guy's a legend, man.
Yeah. Richard is great. His new game is really cool. It's an infiltration game, and it has a really cool dynamic narrative story. He's an example of a person who's come to visit the college and provided lectures, and it's, even though it's a little independent game, it's been rated as one of the most anticipated games of 2017. So it's cool.
Man, that is awesome. And once again, I have to say publicly, Martin, congratulations also for being able to attend E3. It's every game player's dream to be able to go, and I'm just so happy that you're able to have gotten the opportunity.
It'd be really different to go back after, years of having worked the booth and been there since the early days, since, was it, I don't know, 95? I don't know.
Oh, you were there in the infancy. Good grief.
So it will be different, but I'm really glad. I look forward to taking pictures of all the people falling asleep on couches, and it'd be great.
Absolutely. And hopefully after E3, Martin, after everything settles down, dies down, I would love to have you back on the show. It'd be greatly appreciated if you could make it.
Sure, lots to talk about. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Martin. And with that, guys, we are out of here. But remember, it's not about the game. It's not about the consoles, actually. It's about the game. So go out there and support. Once again, Martin, thank you for being on. It's greatly appreciated, brother.
All right. You're welcome, Keon. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.